Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Down by Contact Football Podcast, episode number 13. We are back after a fresh week off. So welcome back. I'm here with Tom. Tom, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Okay. No one cares. Bill, how about you?
Greetings and salutations. I am great.
There it is. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football. Check us out on YouTube, DBC Football, or on the web at www.dbcfootball.com. We'd really appreciate you subscribing and sharing. Get out there, subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. Share on your social media.
At least listen.
At least listen to the podcast.
That's first.
Yeah, that might help.
Then subscribe.
That's a really good point. All right, this week on the podcast, we'll go around the news around the NFL. We'll talk about all the hot button issues, what's going on, what's not going on, but mostly what is going on. But before we get into that, Tom, who, Cowboys fan, Tom's going to talk about this date in NFL history. Tom, what do you got?
Yeah, so from 625 to 7-1 in 1965, Pete Rozelle granted Atlanta a franchise in the NFL. They also applied for a franchise in the American Football League, but obviously got granted into the NFL.
I feel like there's like somewhere deep-rooted, like a 28-3 reference somewhere in here. We just have to find it.
There could be.
Like the Patriots Super Bowl rings they gave out, 283 diamonds. Mm-hmm. Savage.
Then we have a couple depressing notes. In 1992, Eagles defensive tackle Jerome Brown died.
Very elegantly put.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Death is funny.
It was, super unfortunate for any Eagles fan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's often talked about as, you ever the Football Life and the Super Bowl shows, it's like the missing rings. We had that great defense. It was the Buddy Ryan defense, and what could have been.
Yeah.
Considered by some to be the best defense of at least the past 30 years. I don't remember who that list came from, but there was one that was floating around.
Yeah. The Buddy Ryan defense was no joke. I mean, the 85 Bears were a Buddy Ryan defense.
And speaking of of a Football Life, they did play that episode of Jerome Brown and Reggie White while we were at the draft, which was at least the third time I've seen it, but still awesome.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking for the city.
1997, former Packers great Don Hutson passed away. Fun fact, he was part of the inaugural class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That makes me too.
In 2002, Jay Berwinger passed away. He actually never played in the NFL, but the fun fact is he was the first ever drafted player. He just could not come to terms with a contract.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a solid piece of football trivia, Tom. While depressing as all hell, with all this death news.
Only three deaths in a row.
There's one more, too.
Make it 4. I know there's another one.
But it was actually a pick of the Eagles, but then he ended up getting traded to the Bears.
Wait, the first ever draft pick was by the Eagles? Mm-hmm. In Philadelphia?
Yeah.
That's solid. I knew it was in Philadelphia. I didn't realize it was the Eagles.
First ever pick, and they ended up trading him to the Bears, but he couldn't come to terms with a contract.
Don't worry, folks. We're going to fact check this later.
Go ahead. And just last year, former Eagles head coach Buddy Ryan passed away.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep, Buddy Ryan. Now his sons are out there fighting in bars.
Holding true to the Ryan name.
Holding true.
Throwing punches.
Throwing batteries.
I mean, I feel like that's what I would do if I were a Ryan.
Yeah.
Or not a Ryan, even.
just to do it.
Just do it.
Some birthdays we have.
So we're going to get out of the depression.
Yeah.
You think.
Matt Schaub.
Schaubby. Local boy. Matt Schaub. He holds a record. Do you know what record he holds?
Most games consecutive with an interception.
Most consecutive games with an interception returned for a touchdown. That is a fact.
That was his last year with Houston, right?
That was his final year with Houston before he went to Oakland, and
it was also bad.
Young Dennis crowned him on par with Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Shannon Sharp also celebrates his birthday.
Happy birthday, Shannon Sharp. That's a good one.
Chad Pennington. For some reason, I just felt like I had to include him.
Absolutely. One of the most accurate passers in NFL history. I love Chad Pennington. Came out of the MAC conference. Come on, Chatty P.
Michael Vick has his birthday this week.
Meh.
John Elway.
Although, interesting note, for, whoops, please silence all cell phones.
Sound effects.
So, Michael Vick is actually going to be part of the inaugural Flag Football League. Can you imagine guys chasing him around trying to rip flags off of him? He's still a dynamic athlete. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun. It kind of reminds me...
He'll probably still get hurt.
The 3-on-3 basketball league, kind of headlined by Allen Iverson.
Big three.
Yeah, kind of cool. Some just little fun leagues happening, you know?
And last but not least, former Cowboys receiver.
Oh, here we go.
Miles Austin.
Miles Austin, the pride of New Jersey. Monmouth.
Yep.
There you go. That's a good one.
Hey, also former Eagles receiver, too.
Well,
Doesn't count.
To be fair, he handed away a game for the Eagles, so,
yeah,
you know.
Congrats. I don't know why I'd want to remind anyone of that.
Cut during the season in his stint here. Go Miles.
Yeah. And that's all I got for this week.
Well, you brought us down, and then you started to lift us back up. You didn't do a very good job, but, you know, hey, we're all learning. Yeah. We're all learning here, right? Mm-hmm. You know?
Allegedly.
Man, there's a lot of information to take in. I gotta take a moment here. Okay, I'm good. So, without any further ado, I guess we'll jump into the news around the league, all the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks. I hope you didn't miss us too much, and here we go. Eric Decker has signed a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. He called it a perfect storm. I think Eric Decker's probably overselling his value a little bit there. Probably. But it's a 1-year deal for $3.85 million up to $5.35 million. I think it's a solid signing for the Titans. I mean, Delaney Walker, they drafted Corey Davis, Tajay Sharp from last year. They're doing some things.
Richard Matthews.
Was he really referring to himself at the perfect storm, or more just a situation in Tennessee?
I think it's the situation.
Because, I mean, they do have something going on down there. I think they have a good number of players that they've accumulated.
Yeah. But as with most people, being jealous of Eric Decker's life, I'll just take a shot at him there, by making fun of his perfect storm comment.
Tell us how you really feel.
To each their own, No, I think you're absolutely right. Tennessee has a great young roster. Derrick Henry, DeMarco Murray, they've got a lot going on in the run. That's smash mouth football.
I mean, so Murray's not that young, but I mean, I think he's
the core of the team.
Sure.
I guess I was referring to.
Yeah.
So one of the youngest.
No, sure. I mean, obviously Mariota. I mean, is a huge one.
Yeah, rookie Corey Davis is they're calling him Baby T.O. Right. Tajay Sharp's in his second year. Right. That offensive line is mostly first round picks. Taylor Lewan's under 25. Jack Conklin out of Michigan. And last year.
I mean, even sticking with DeMarco, like, again, not quite young, but he's not too old yet anyway. He still very much has fire in him, I think.
Yeah, great rebound
here.
He
proved that last year for sure.
So, feels like it was a system thing why he didn't work 2 years ago.
I feel like it was a coaching thing mostly.
Chip Kelly.
I've got a buy or sell for us today.
Oh.
We got a buy or sell.
Look at that.
Hot off the presses. The Buffalo Bills missed out on the Jeremy Maclin sweepstakes. Right, when he signed with Baltimore for free crab cakes for life. But Sean McDermott, head coach Sean McDermott, who Jim Kelly says has brought a much-needed discipline to the team.
Which is true.
Which is probably true.
After a couple years of
Rex
Ryan.
Sexy Rexy. Sean McDermott has said that wide receiver Andre Holmes has been the star of the offseason, and that he's going to make waves. Buy or sell, Tom?
I mean, I definitely not buying that. Around this.
So then, what are you doing?
Selling.
There you go.
But around this time, you always hear about
all these off-season stories about players in the best shape of their lives and everything. Yeah.
The no-name players, how they're doing great. Let's see how they look. In a couple weeks when you can actually make contact with them.
Yeah. If I recall correctly, this will be his 5th team. His best year was in 2014. He had about somewhere between 600 and 700 yards. I'd have to double check the stat on that one, but that was with the Oakland Raiders. He spent some time with Dallas, I remember, Minnesota. He's never really been
there's a reason
the guy, right? I don't know. I love these fluff pieces.
See, allegedly Nelson Aguilar looked better too. Are you inclined to buy or sell that one?
I'm buying that one.
Yeah, you're buying it.
I'm buying a pack of gum and trading it for him.
Yeah, I'll buy it if I see it happen on the field this season.
You're giving up too much.
I'm giving up too much. Yeah. All right. Speaking of draft busts, cornerback Justin Gilbert, free agent cornerback, mind you, former number 8 overall pick in the first round of 2014, has been suspended for a year for violating the league's substance abuse policy. So Johnny Manziel's former party mate is out for a year after a really disappointing stint with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And obviously after being drafted in the first round by the Cleveland Browns. You think he ever plays again?
Probably not. I mean, he's not good enough to really get yet another chance.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that statement.
Maybe like an off-season like chance, like see if he can prove himself in preseason and training camps and stuff, but
probably not.
Probably not.
When Joe Thomas says you don't deserve to play football, I'm inclined to believe it. Yeah, Joe Thomas probably the greatest or second. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into that debate later. Top three left tackles of all time. But he questioned the kid from day one and was like, "Yeah, this guy's not here to play football." And guess what? Looks like he's right.
Yeah.
You get to hang with Manziel again, though, so that's good for him.
There you go. Plenty of free time.
Yeah. It's good to party with your buds when you can get it in.
Bruce Arians, Arizona Cardinals head coach, former Temple head coach, has come out and said that Byron Leftwich will be a future head coach in this league. Any opinion on that?
No? I mean, I'm sure he played quarterback in this league.
For a decade.
I'm sure he's smart enough.
7th overall pick in 2003. Same year as Carson Palmer, and now he's the quarterbacks coach for that team.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got the smarts, so it could happen.
I will never forget the game where Leftwich had the broken leg, and he had to be carried up the field and was still throwing. I mean, it was an incredible thing to watch. Obviously, former Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. He also played with the Steelers. I think he spent some time with the Bucks. And then back with the Steelers again until he retired, if I recall correctly. But I always liked Byron Leftwich, another MAC conference player, just like Chad Pennington. Obviously, he spent time with BA all the way back in Pittsburgh, his time in Pittsburgh. But, I like Leftwich. I feel like he didn't get a full fair shake in Jacksonville after the David Garrard era. But, I'd like to see him as a head coach. I think former quarterbacks, they're starting to get some coaching glory.
Yeah.
I think so. Good for Leftwich. Good for Leftwich. He's got a cool name, and he had the craziest delivery of a passer that I think I've ever seen. I mean, he had that long wind up, like it was like Tebow times 10.
Like Tebow, but good.
Well,
Tebow, but better.
Tebow, but better. That might be a more accurate statement. So good for him.
Good is such a strong word.
It is. Gooder than Tebow.
I'm gooder than Tebow.
Hey,
I'm not.
He's been promoted. He is now one step away. He's one step away from the majors.
So he's in AAA, huh?
I believe so. He was promoted over the weekend.
I thought wasn't he in single A before?
Oh, that's depressing. You just ruined it. Here comes the fact check.
Just keep on making a depressing.
We agree that he's still in the minors.
Yes,
that is a fact.
He won't make it to the majors. Let's just put it there.
Excuse me.
He was hitting 222 at the lowest.
Hey, he's hit a couple home runs.
Ooh, it's because the dude's jacked. Anybody can hit home runs if they make solid contact with the ball.
Speaking of jacked, did you see John Gruden's son?
I did not.
Winning some kind of like Mr. Olympia or something crazy, some kind of powerlifting competition. That guy is jacked. Well, Butch Gruden.
You have to win something like that.
Yeah. Other news. Big Red, Andy Reid, has signed a contract extension with the Kansas City Chiefs, keeping him there for the Patrick Mahomes era and the end of the Alex Smith era. Also, with that news, kind of simultaneously, it was announced that the Chiefs and John Dorsey have mutually parted ways.
It was probably like...
Mutually.
The owners probably came up to him and said, if you don't say this mutually, we're just going to fire you.
Yeah, resign or you're fired. Right. Still a lot of mystery surrounding, maybe it has something to do with Macklin getting cut.
That's what I think, just because supposedly he was like by voicemail. Like, he didn't actually talk to Jeremy Macklin when it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I know like Tom Bahali is furious with Dorsey being let go, but it's certainly strange the way that's all played out. And of course, now John Dorsey's gone. I mean, I think he'll be highly sought after. He's built some good teams. You can't tell me that the Chiefs drafting the last 5 years hasn't been excellent.
I mean, luckily Eric Fisher's starting to look better than he did his first couple years. So.
To be fair, that's arguably the worst draft class in NFL history.
True.
So, but guys in the running, George Patton has removed his name from the running. The Vikings assistant general manager has opted to stay in Minnesota. Scott Fittner, Seahawks college scout, or kind of the head of college scouting a little bit there. He's in contention. Obviously, every year it's just guys from the Seahawks front office. They're in contention for every GM job. Ryan Cowden, the Titans director of player personnel. Obviously, Bill made the perfect comment that the Titans are building something there. Their director of player personnel, now in the running for a GM job. Brett Veach is their top in-house candidate. And then, of course, you have Louis Riddick, former Eagles executive. Obviously he's worked with Andy Reid in the front office, and I think Andy Reid probably gets a little bit more personnel control like he had back here in Philadelphia. So I like Louis Riddick to get the job there, or Brett Veach, their in-house candidate. We'll see what happens, and good luck to Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I think, all but 2 years he's had double-digit wins. And I think both of those years were 9-7, so no losing seasons for Big Red in Kansas City.
One of the years they actually missed the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, they were 9-7. They lost to the Seahawks in week 7, or the Chargers in week 17. I remember. I was a season ticket holder.
Oh, so that was while you were there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The one season you were a ticket holder.
The one season I was there, they missed the playoffs. It was great. It was
no superstitions here.
However, the Royals made it to the World Series.
That's true.
And lost. They won the following year.
So, yeah, but you don't have a baseball podcast.
That's true. All right.
We're certainly not talking about the Phillies.
Yeah, not a chance. I don't feel like crying. Drew Stanton, he thinks the NFL doesn't develop quarterbacks well. I want to go on record right now, and I want to make this perfectly clear. I was a big fan of Drew Stanton coming out. When the Eagles drafted Kevin Kolb out of Houston in the second round of that draft, I was stumping the table for Drew Stanton. He has proven to be the best quarterback in that draft class. It just sucks that he got drafted by the Mike Martz-led offensive Lions. So he's really never gotten a fair shake, and everywhere he's gone where he thought he was going to get a fair shake, things just kind of haven't worked out for him. Mm-hmm. So, now Carson Palmer's 37 and he's still the starter. Drew Stanton is now competing for the backup job with Blaine Gabbert, former first round pick.
That's how you know you hit rock bottom. You're competing.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? But it made me think. So I started to kind of look around the league. Only 11 projected starters in week 1 were not first round picks. That's 34% of the jobs for starting quarterback. If you consider, however, that of those 11, 3 of them have a first round quarterback waiting right behind them, a recent first round pick within the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. That means only a quarter of the jobs are headed up by guys who weren't drafted in the first round. I think that does speak to a development problem. I think Drew Stanton's onto something.
I'm not sure if it's 100%. I mean, it's definitely some.
Well,
it's NFL, but I mean, a lot. I mean, people talk about the college game. I mean,
absolutely,
it's different. I mean, college most of the time just based off pure athleticism. The best athletes are usually the best players in college.
Yeah, I don't dispute that at all, but I think Drew Stanton's got a perfect point.
Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't getting developed, right? I mean, you think about all the second, third, fourth, fifth round busts. I mean, they bust. I don't know if that's even a fair word. You've got your Russell Wilson, you got your Dak Prescott. Clearly, you've got Tom Brady, but all the rest of those guys in that
backups at
best. Really. So you get, Brian Hoyer is in that list of the quarter of the starting jobs, who's really just a placeholder until they find the first round quarterback that they want. So I think Drew Stanton's really onto something. I mean, you make a fair point about the college game. It's mostly spread, but still that goes all the way back. I mean, Alex Smith was a spread quarterback. You're talking about 05.
Yeah.
He was drafted number 1 overall in 05. So the NFL has known that the college is not giving them pro-level ready quarterbacks, over a decade. Mm-hmm. So you can tell me, quarterback's the most important position in sports. At some point, you've got to learn how to develop these guys. So
that's to be addressed individually by organizations and those quarterbacks.
Right.
You can't look at all of college football, the entire,
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point.
How exactly is that something you address?
I wish I had the answer. It's easy for me to sit here and poke holes at it.
Right.
That's why I'm doing it.
I mean,
it's fun.
Definitely. Some coaches are better at developing. I mean, we just talked about Andy Reid. He's been kind of known for doing a decent job at developing quarterbacks.
AJ Feely, Kevin Kolb.
I mean, not all
Coy Detmer.
Not all coaches have that ability.
Nick Foles.
I think in the end you just really do need the talent in the player.
Yeah,
that's the big. I think that's a bigger thing. Not saying obviously that development isn't huge. That is very very important. You can have all the talent in the world, but you don't polish it right. You're not gonna get that shine. Not to be all poetic about it, but still you can point your fingers at whatever position they got drafted and say, okay, obviously they were expected to be great, but maybe they weren't so great. There's an issue with development there.
Yeah.
But perhaps there's just a dearth of talent with these individual players. One is just as likely as the other. I'm not saying which one it is, obviously. I don't know.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point.
It's definitely the skill set. I mean, you look at Brock Osweiler. He was
Brock Lobster. He was a second round pick.
Had 3-4 years sitting behind Peyton Manning, and he still doesn't really look like he can put it together. Already on his third team.
He's in the best shape of his life.
Like every other
off-season fluff. Hugh Jackson has been impressed. They're just trying to get some
maybe it's
value.
Maybe it's even just sometimes.
No one give away Hugh's plan.
We talked about like during draft season that people reach for quarterbacks. Right? Like maybe these players aren't actually, worth as high as they got drafted. But since they're a quarterback, they get drafted higher.
And it's funny is that you talk about talent, and then you start to look at like all the measurables and stuff. You have guys, a few to name. I'll just name a few. Sorry, Dak Prescott, undersized, slipped in the draft. Also had the DUI. Love pointing that out. Russell Wilson, undersized, slipped in the draft. Drew Brees, undersized, slipped in the draft. I don't know. There are a lot of factors at play. Right? So I don't know. I guess we'll see as time goes on, but I think we're really approaching, Aaron Rodgers is getting older. Obviously Brady can't. I mean, I think he can't play forever.
You don't know that.
I think in 4, 5, 6 years, Eli will be gone. A lot of the top flight, Drew Brees will clearly be gone. I mean, he'd be like 44.
We can say Drew Brees and Eli will be gone for sure. Tom Brady, we're not sure yet.
Yeah, he may be a robot. So
Aaron Rodgers will be close to retiring.
Right. So I think we're really going to start to see.
Retiring.
We're going to hit a wall with major talented quarterbacks. Where we're hearing reports that Matt Stafford's going to end up being the highest paid quarterback. Dovetailing the next bit of news we have here, but is Matt Stafford really? Is he worth, $145 million contract?
It's what you get for being, like you said, the most important position in sports.
It's rough.
If we can, I suppose, just go ahead and seg into the next point.
Yeah, I mean Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, is he really worth $25 million a year?
5 years, $125 million. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
Now, granted,
is Derek Carr an athlete? Absolutely. Does he deserve money that quarterbacks should get? Absolutely. But is $25 million a year that money? I don't think so.
Are the most fourth quarter comebacks in the last 2 years worth $25 million a year?
I mean, to the Raiders organization, clearly they put the money out.
Like, how much would you pay if you think a guy's going to win you a Super Bowl?
I suppose, yeah, of course. But
it's tough.
You look at Joe Flacco a couple years ago. He just happened to win a Super Bowl his contract year. I mean. Yeah. Derek Carr played well, and their team won in his contract year. So,
like I said, I don't want to shortchange that stat. He was coming off a brilliant year. He was in first place of the MVP conversation at various points of the season until he broke his leg.
Yeah.
But he does lead the league in fourth quarter comebacks in the last 2 seasons. Okay. I think that was a huge factor. Huge factor. He's
definitely a clutch quarterback.
Right.
Again, it's not a dig at all at Derek Carr because. Again, I reiterate, if anyone deserves however much money quarterback should get, he's definitely proven he's one of those guys. But, I mean, just the trend is something that bothers me. And I guess that's me looking as a peon. These guys getting paid millions of dollars more than they really deserve. But, like, obviously, again, that's what the market is. Teams are willing to pay that. That's what I would never interfere with that kind of thing. But it's... when are we going to get to 30, 35, $40 million?
It's coming, yeah.
It's coming for sure.
Absolutely.
And I don't know who actually wants to see that aside from, obviously, those prospective quarterbacks.
Right, yeah. It's absolutely, I mean, and it can be crushing to a team. How do you build an even team, right? How do I build up a solid defense? It's the Peyton Manning effect from the 2000s Colts. They shelled all that money to Peyton Manning.
The cap does raise every year, but still it doesn't raise, I think, proportionally to how high the salaries that quarterbacks are getting paid.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a stat. I think Derek Carr, in terms of most touchdowns and fewest interceptions for a guy in his first few years, only Dan Marino had more touchdowns and less interceptions than him. So, I mean, he's in good company, right? But
Now, when we're talking about Super Bowls.
I was going to say, then again, Dan Marino did never win a Super Bowl. So, Derek Carr has a lot of bright things going for him. I'm a really big fan of his. Definitely have some love for the Raiders.
I don't care about the Raiders, but, I mean, I think someone like Derek Carr is definitely good for the game, for sure.
Yeah.
For various reasons. I don't have to elucidate all of them, but still.
And he's going to splurge on Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
I can relate to that.
Just not on Sundays.
Just not on Sundays.
Well, he should be playing football.
That's true.
Right.
Bye weeks, though.
There's only...
Way to go, Tom. So, yeah, I mean, it's a...
Monday night.
Gosh, because they've got some big money players on that team. They have the high, at the time he signed the contract, the highest paid center in the NFL. He no longer is, but, they've got Kalichi Osemele. They've got some guy. Gabe Jackson's going to need a new contract. They've got some guys coming
Amari
up.
Cooper's going to need a new contract.
I'll say
Cooper.
If Amari Cooper really emerges as a
A
top
true
guy,
number one, yeah.
then he's going to get paid too.
Did Khalil Mack ever get paid?
Khalil Mack's going to need to get paid. So, he just won Defensive Player of the Year.
That'll bump it up a little.
I mean, it's an interesting conversation that we're having when you look at just a few years ago. Oakland Raiders, the very
the
face
laughingstock
of dysfunction in the entire NFL for how many years, and now we're talking about they have so many players that you're like, nah, that guy's going to get paid, that guy's going to get paid, that guy got paid.
Yeah,
I mean, good for them.
I used to work with. I did some work with a guy who was a Nate Lyles, who was a safety who briefly spent some time with the Oakland Raiders, and he said their training camp was pretty much a joke. He said there were really no rules. I mean, this is going back to I believe like 2008.
I mean, that's
come a long way in the last decade.
That's why they're moving to Vegas.
Excuse me. Okay.
It's to help with that discipline problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jack Del Rio has helped with that discipline problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting little tidbit out of Archie Manning's mouth. Adam Gase tried to recruit Peyton Manning to come play for the Dolphins for a playoff Super Bowl run last year. You imagine that? At the time, Miami's 8-5, coming off a game where Ryan Tannehill tore his ACL. Adam Gase, he's running the same system he ran with Peyton back in Denver. And he reaches out and says, well, 18, the media is going to ask me, what am I calling you? What am I going to tell them? And 18, Peyton Manning gave some clever answer to succinctly say, no. But the what if...
You say I'm drinking Budweisers?
I don't know. But the what if, right? So there's always that what if game. What do you think? What do you think the Peyton Manning-led Dolphins could have done last year?
I mean, they probably wouldn't have beaten the Tom Brady-led Patriots.
Well, I just remember the beatdown they suffered at the hands of Pittsburgh in the playoffs. It was brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Moore got demolished. Do you imagine Peyton Manning in that game? I don't think they would have had a much better result.
He was done
with
in
Peyton
his
Manning.
career.
I mean, Matt Moore, yeah.
It was,
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Manning in that last season that he had did not demonstrate he had much in the tank.
Right.
That was good for him that he got the ring, but that was definitely the defense that did all the work, really.
Hey, he scored at least 2 points.
He did score 2 points because they wanted him to at least score some points. At least it was for his team this time. Yeah, they weren't. I mean, it would be a great story. I mean, if one player as a quarterback won Super Bowls for 3 different teams, how cool would that be? Was that going to happen with Peyton Manning and the Dolphins? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they need a few more pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning was aware of that.
Probably why he said no. But part of me also wonders if they called Brett Favre, if he would have said, yeah, that dude can still rip it. It's insane. Yeah. I love Brett Favre. Anyway, Nick Fairley, a little bit of sad news here. Nick Fairley with his heart condition, he's been officially placed on the NFI by the Saints, and he's out for the full year. Good bounce back year for him. Kind of considered a little bit of a first-round bust by the Lions. But it was good to see him kind of get back into the swing of things with the Rams the year before and then with the Saints last year. So, sad. Hopefully he comes back next year stronger.
Yeah.
You never want to see a player out long-term due to injury. Speaking of which, Jalen Smith, Byron Jones quoted as saying, quote, he's balling out so far. He's balling out so far. So it is nice to see, even as an Eagles fan, a player like Jalen Smith, an electric college player, got hurt in a bowl game that really didn't mean anything. He's really sad. But hey, good reports coming out saying he's healthy.
Yeah.
Good for him. Other Cowboys news: Taco Charlton has signed an important deal. He has signed a partnership with Taco Bueno to spread the word of delicious tacos. Tom, the resident Cowboys fan, how does that make you feel?
It makes me want to try some Taco Bueno. See if they're any good. I mean, it was bound to happen. Like, some taco chain restaurant was bound to come out.
Although it wasn't his first endorsement.
Really?
Some kind of soft drink partnered with him prior to that. Big Red Cup or something like that. Yeah. So, how's that? Take the wind out of your sails?
Sure.
Good. And last but certainly not least, Latavius Murray, the freshly inked running back of the Minnesota Vikings, was commenting on his positional battle with incoming rookie Dalvin Cook. And he said, "This is my time," and he essentially said that there's no chance that he's not the starter week 1. There's that, that kind of age-old question, like, veteran signs a bit of a savvy contract on the market, team trades up, drafts a player for that position. Does he, is it realistic in his mind to say, I'm the starter no matter what, when they drafted a kind of a flashy, talented player in Dalvin Cook?
It does make you question exactly what was the organization trying to do.
Right. I think it certainly sends the wrong message.
Right. I mean, it sends, at least I think, a mixed message. I mean, you don't sign someone like Latavius Murray, you would assume, without hoping to get value on the field out of him. But you also aren't trading up to get someone like a Dalvin Cook, especially with some, off the field issues, without also trying to get some value. So unless they're trying to have just a really strong running game from a couple of different guys, which, hey, that's not a bad idea in my opinion. But, I mean, who knows? Sounds like possible controversy.
Yeah. What do you think, Tom?
I think Latavius Murray's kind of going to be like the early down back.
And so lightning and thunder thing.
Yeah, they'll probably throw Cook in, passing game, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. You could be like New Orleans and just draft Alvin Kamara for some reason. What's wrong with you, Sean Payton? Mickey Loomis? I want answers.
And then go and sign Adrian Peterson.
That doesn't sound personal at all.
It's not personal.
You didn't want Alvin Kamara, did you?
Stupid Saints.
Did he play in Tennessee?
He played for the University of Tennessee Volunteers.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. I've heard of that institution once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice, sorry.
Hey,
12 times?
We made it all the way to this segment. Reggie White was mentioned earlier, and Peyton Manning was mentioned earlier, and not a Vol mention. And I didn't even bring up Josh Dobbs when we were talking quarterback development. Okay?
Because you haven't seen how he plays.
We did mention Tennessee, but just the Titans.
Yeah, I was holding back here. I want credit for my restraint.
There is one thing I want to try to talk about real quick. Herm Edwards. I'm not sure if you saw his running back rankings.
No.
They were talking about Ezekiel Elliott, and he said he's not the best running back in the league, which I agree with.
By the way, for anyone who does not know, I'm just going to jump in really quick. Herm Edwards was the player who scooped and scored at the original Miracle at the Meadowlands for the Eagles. Also was the head coach of the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep. So I agree he's not the best running back in the league. He said he was number 4, and he had David Johnson.
I was gonna say, can I try to guess?
You're gonna guess number 3. He had David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell, which I agree with. They're great all around backs. Can you guys try to guess who number 3 is?
So David Johnson, Lev Bell, blank, and then Zeke.
Who he thinks is the 3rd best running back in the league?
Herm Edwards. Who does Herm Edwards think? Oh man, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna shot in the dark. Either McCoy or Murray.
It is McCoy.
Shady.
Bang!
He thinks LaShawn McCoy is the 3rd best running back in the NFL.
That's interesting. Really?
Yeah.
That's.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
I mean, that's interesting. Shady McCoy is one of. I mean,
he's a very good runner. I'm not sure if he's
a top.
3, though.
I don't know, top 200 of all time or something. I'd have to really dive into it to get further. But okay, I certainly think Zeke is a better running back than Shady. Shady is obviously probably a little better in the open field, but he's not pounding between the tackles like Zeke Elliott. I mean, I could say that.
Like, I'm not even just saying that he put him above Zeke. I just put him at number 3. And
yeah, so he had David Johnson at 1, huh?
I'm not even sure if there's the actual, but I know.
Yeah, I think from a pure talent standpoint, Lev Bell's probably my number 1, but Availability is a big key in that, so that really peg him down. That's interesting. Herm Edwards. He's a bit of a shock jock, Herm Edwards.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes he just goes with what he's feeling.
I was a little flabbergasted.
Yeah, well, you're a Cowboys fan.
Like I said, it's not.
I mean, Herm's an Eagle to the core. Like, I've always loved watching Herm on ESPN after he was done coaching, because he always had love for former Eagles coaches. So, except for Chip Kelly. But now Chip works for ESPN.
Yeah.
You know, watch out.
For now, he works there.
Yeah. He'll be fired after everybody else is too tired when he's quickly done his segment.
Right. Well, the problem will be that the man can't really talk on camera, so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Zero personality.
Yep. Okay, well, that's all the football news we have. But continuing a trend from our last show 2 weeks ago, we were kind of like hashing some things out here, and you know, we talked a little bit about the Batman universe, right? Last time. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, started turning the hamster wheel up in the old brain cranium area. The brain cranium.
The brainium.
That's another T-shirt, by the way. So I was thinking, patent pending. I was thinking, you know, what's your favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, right? So that's been around for almost a decade now. We're coming up. That's crazy. 2008. Yeah. Iron Man was the first movie in the MCU back in 2008. It's almost a decade.
Pop quiz. What was the second movie?
The second movie, The Incredible Hulk.
Yep. I mean, that's what I would have.
Yeah. The Ed Norton Incredible Hulk.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ang Lee one doesn't count?
Because
I'm pretty sure the Ed Norton one was a direct sequel to that.
Yeah, apparently the other one doesn't count.
Because reasons?
Because reasons, yeah.
Okay.
So
I'd say that would probably be the first, actually.
I started
Details.
Yeah.
Details.
According to the...
according to people who care about things that I don't, so there's that.
So I wanted to throw out my favorite MCU movie, my favorite MCU character, my least favorite MCU movie, and my least favorite MCU character. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
Solid. My favorite MCU movie is a tie. I know I'm cheating here, but it's a tie. While Iron Man got really strong, Iron Man, the original, had very strong consideration, I went with a tie between Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and Captain America Civil War. You know? It was delightful movies. And then my favorite character is, of course, Captain America. For anyone who knows me, that's child's play. That question is child's play. Captain Rogers holds a place in my heart. Least favorite MCU movie, Iron Man 3, which was actually just garbage perpetrating to be a superhero movie. I pretend it never existed. And then, like, the whole, you know, Ben Kingsley, I was like, I love Ben Kingsley.
So it's such a gross misuse of Ben Kingsley in that movie. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Ben Kingsley is a phenomenal talent and actor. And even as a schlub in that movie, he pulled it off.
Yeah.
But it was a big FU from Marvel, in my opinion. It was good misdirection on their part. However, it just pissed me off.
I think they believed they were being clever and were taking it in an interesting direction, and it was putting forth a more interesting villain, but they really weren't.
Yeah.
Again, confusing people. You used the word misdirection. They confused people. Yeah. All around, with not only the execution, but the motivation behind it.
Yeah.
Just, again, I think they thought they were doing something good, but they weren't.
They were not. They are frauds. And then my least favorite MCU character is Groot. And we talked a little bit before the show about why that is, and I think it's because of my just disdain for Vin Diesel. And so I just can't like Groot. I'm sorry. I am not Groot.
Is it because you live your life a quarter mile at a time?
Stop that. Don't ever say that again. You just quote Vin Diesel on the show, man?
To you.
Come on.
To describe you.
Ugh. No, I live my life like a normal freaking person. A quarter mile at a time. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It wasn't a Fast and Furious movie.
It was. And I believe the first.
The original, yeah.
Bad
movies, all of them.
Pretty much. Tom, in the same fashion, what do you have for me?
My list is actually very, very close to
yours. Of course it is.
The only I don't have a tie at first. Civil War stands number one. My favorite character, like you, is Captain America. And you try to say you're the biggest fan, but who is the one that had the Captain America cufflinks at my wedding?
Because it was your wedding.
That's hearsay.
You got to pick because that's hearsay.
That's hearsay. That's literally how you described it in the question.
Also, my least favorite movie is also Iron Man 3. I like all the movies except that.
You like all of the MCU movies
Yes.
except that.
Except
Wow.
That is really the only one I don't like.
So you're a straight up fanboy for the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
He's just
man.
like me, but opposite.
And my least favorite...
Let me guess, you don't have one.
It took me a while to figure this out one, but I chose Mandarin. I just went from the, he was probably the worst character in my least favorite movie.
Yeah, but Ben Kingsley pulled it off.
I mean, just the character itself, not the
Yeah,
person
that's
who
fair.
played it, just
That's fair.
the character itself.
Especially considering like Mandarin is like an actual villain in
I just
the
felt
Iron Man
like that
comics.
he was
He's
really
like
portrayed.
pretty BA, for
Yeah.
sure.
Who was the, I can't remember his name, the villain in Guardians of the Galaxy.
The first one?
Yeah.
Oh boy, what was his name? You're not Thanos, the
Like,
Ronin.
he was also in consideration because I feel like he didn't really portray the villain greatly.
Yeah, he's no Loki.
Yeah. That's where I'm going with that.
Okay, how about you, Bill? Favorite MCU movie?
Well, my favorite one that I actually consider to be just a good movie, and I don't generally consider comic book movies to be good, but like something I'll throw in there, like Dark Knight's a good movie, really, not just like an entertaining popcorn flick, which these kinds of movies tend to be.
Right,
but
right.
The original Iron Man is actually a really good movie.
Calmer than you are, dude.
One of the big, not just because of Jeff Bridges, though he is in there. Nice. One of the things that really will hamstring superhero movies, especially the first ones, they gotta have the origin story.
Right. Every
Except
time,
for the next Spider-Man that's coming out, if that's not already out yet, because
July 7th.
no one needs to know about Uncle Ben dying again. Like, it's been done.
Yeah.
Everyone knows
we
that
can-
story now. Yeah.
Like we can scrape our skin off the hot coals there.
But out in the desert, building the original prototype suit while
That
he's
was
in
awesome.
captivity, the whole thing was interesting. Jeff Bridges as the villain
Obadiah Stane.
he was rather awesome. The whole
Does not
movie
have Don Cheadle.
solid all the way. Yeah, it does not have Don Cheadle. It has Terrence Howard, which
yeah.
Upgrade
Yeah.
for sure. Well, except for in 2 bad movies, but that's besides the point. The original Iron Man, by far and away. I don't know as far as like favorite character. I'll just go right to actor, and that will be Robert Downey Jr. I mean,
Yeah.
just go ahead and watch the first Avengers movie, which get into that, but he is head and shoulders as far as acting ability above everybody else.
Yeah.
There's a reason he gets paid for whatever little screen time he's willing to give them at this point.
Yeah.
The
Did you
man
see The
is
Judge?
phenomenal.
The Judge with Robert Duvall.
No,
His
I didn't
father.
see that.
It was really
Yeah,
good.
right.
It was really
I
good.
imagine, right. As far as least favorite movie, almost all of them. I like a couple. Guardians is good. Captain America: Civil War is actually pretty good. The original Avengers was not too bad. I was surprised at how tight it was storytelling wise with so many characters going on.
Yeah.
The first Thor was okay except for the middle part. Super slow and boring.
Right. Got really boring.
Everything else is just kind of.
I mean, Idris Elba is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for Idris Elba, yes. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. Everything else is kind of direct to me with those movies. It's not really my thing.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one that's, like, super bad, I don't know, man. Iron Man 3 is pretty bad.
Yeah. It's
We've come to
unanimous.
Right.
It is
it's
unanimous.
it's pretty bad. I don't have a least favorite character. They all kind of suck.
All right.
All right.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah.
I mean, not like here's the thing. Like some of my favorite characters that should be in the MCU are not, and as far as how they're portrayed in the movies. So if I can go extended outside, Spider-Man 3 by far the worst, and Topher Grace's Venom also by far the worst.
Oh, I might tear up from laughing. That was,
I'll take my trophy at the end of the segment.
yeah, I think you won by default. That wasn't a debate, but it turned into one, and you won. We just made it one, and you won. Spider-Man 3 is probably the most god-awful thing I've ever paid to see.
Yeah.
I went to the movies to see that.
I mean, like
You
I
didn't
didn't.
like his dance down the
Oh, the dance
sidewalk?
move, and then he like abused Mary Jane. Like that was cool.
Yeah,
Not.
I didn't pay to see it. It was someone had it on. I'm like, all right, I got to see it. I heard it's bad, but I'll watch it. It might be pretty good. Like, nah, it's I'm watching freaking
These
Saturday Night Fever all of a sudden.
These people were right. This is not good.
Yeah. Oh, that is.
The stories they told me were true.
Oh man.
Yeah, Topher Grace was just the worst casting decision. I hope. From what I heard, Tom Hardy Obviously, he's supposed to play Venom. If people weren't already aware of that,
Yeah, the
then
Sony movie.
If you are aware, then it's obvious.
Unrelated to the MCU.
Right. Also, still not part of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And Carnage, from what I hear, is going to be the villain, which
would be awesome.
Referring back to
Maximum
Carnage, a video game we
Sega
talked about a
Genesis.
little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Classic.
Solid game.
It was on Super Nintendo too.
I
It
have
was.
a question for
Red
you
cartridge.
guys. Worst superhero movie, Bat Nipples Batman or Spider-Man 3?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give the nod to Spider-Man 3 because it's a more modern movie, and they knew better. Like Bat Nipples already happened. Like you know better than to put some crap like that on the screen.
I mean, I kind of do want to go with Spider-Man 3. It's just really unwatchable. Where at least Batman and Robin is funny with how bad it is, and some parts are just genuinely amusing anyway. But like it's like Showgirls in that it's bad, but you still watch it. It's a horror movie, you know.
Yeah,
you watch it to be frightened, but you know it's entertaining. But like Spider-Man 3 is just crap the whole way through.
So
cover to cover.
You may or may not have one, but you had kind of mentioned something that had my wheels turning. A character that's not in the MCU that I would love to see in the MCU is Beta Ray Bill, another Norse fella, basically a humanoid horse type of person who ends up wielding Thor's hammer Mjolnir at various points, and he's a match for Thor, right? You know, strength wise and all that.
Not Jane Foster.
No.
Because she's Thor now, just so you know.
Oh, right, in the comic.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Because
I actually have the first six issues of that.
Oh, that makes one of us.
I stopped at 6.
Yeah.
What about Deadpool? I'd like to see him in the.
Well, you know, there are limitations. Fox will never play nice with Disney.
Him or Wolverine.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
It'd be cool to
Don't
have
you
that.
get me started on Wolverine.
Say, the one, I think we might actually have a unanimous decision on that one, but it's not going to happen because who are they going to cast now? And Hugh Jackman's done.
Say if they could get him to go one more time and come to agreement with Fox, throw him in there.
Of course, I'd want to see that. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was like my childhood, man.
It's just not going to happen though.
Yeah,
Except
Fox doesn't play nice.
Horrible. That might.
Yeah.
That might.
But hey, Channing Tatum is going to play Gambit, so all's right with the world.
If that ever happens.
Sarcasm.
You really did need to clarify that sarcasm there.
I had to make sure.
You looked way too serious when you said that. I was frightened. Channing Tatum playing anything is not like all is right with the world.
Yeah. Although I probably would watch that Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover if they ever go ahead and make it.
Is that like a real thing that's been talked about?
It was part of the hacked Sony emails that was being floated around. But we'll see. I'm a Will Smith fan, so good for that.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones is the man. Yeah, I can only think of one movie he was in that I didn't like.
The one with the cheerleaders.
The one with the cheerleaders. Yeah.
That was bad.
It was bad. Anywho, we digress. We got off on our tangent there, right? We all love Wolverine. We all hate Spider-Man 3. I think that's the consensus. The MCU is a little bit overrated.
Iron Man 3.
And Iron Man 3, yeah. Iron Man 3. So, yeah. It's good stuff. Thanks for joining us this week. We had a lot of fun. We
maybe next
football.
week we'll try to come up with a movie where it's a third
2 weeks.
That's actually good.
A third?
Yeah, that's solid. Does Indiana Jones count?
I mean, there's there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, we'll figure that out later. Sorry, the brain started turning. But anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll talk about more random stuff in 2 weeks, and we'll also cover all the football news. We are fastly approaching fantasy football season. Make sure you go sign yourself up for whatever mundane league you join. Just kidding. No, seriously.
If you're doing those weekly things too, whatever you're into.
Yeah, whatever you got to do. The DraftKings and what's the other one? FanDuel. Yeah, do those. So all that stuff's fastly approaching. We'll start to get prepped on that. We're prepping for our league. We got a lot going on, so be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks, and we'll have more of this little lighthearted entertainment for you.
Chit chat.
So yeah, thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and listen to our podcast. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football, on the web at www.dbcfootball.com, and of course on YouTube, DBC Football. So, be sure to
stay humble,
drink beer,
have a good time, and love football. All right, thanks everyone.